Adam, so good to see you again.
What's up, John? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm located in Raleigh, North Carolina. For my active business, we're primarily focused on flipping homes here in the Triangle of North Carolina. So Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. We also wholesale a little bit, cash and creative deals, mainly on the Southeast. So from Virginia down to Florida. And then that's our main active business. And then for our more like legacy assets, we're focusing on the sober living space. And so I have one in Knoxville, Tennessee, three in escrow currently, and my goal is to buy 20 this year creatively all across the country.
Oh wow, okay. Um, so you're doing wholesaling, you're doing fix flipping, and then you're also buy and holding nationwide.
Correct.
And how are you able to do all these different things at the same time?
Taking control of my calendar. Um, Time blocking is of utmost importance. I've got a wife and three small kids. I also own a coffee shop as well. And so there's a lot of plate spinning. And so if it's not scheduled, it's not going to happen, right? Life is going to pop up and things are going to get missed. And so being really diligent about my calendar and setting time aside for specific tasks. And then on top of that, just delegating to partners and other teammates to make sure things get done.
Okay. So what were you doing before you got into real estate?
So, how I found real estate investing, I was actually a full-time real estate photographer. And so I was shooting a lot of listings for realtors, regular homeowners, and then investors. And there was a guy locally here who does massive volume, about 100 houses a year. And so I was shooting all of his listings and was always interested in the Property Brothers and all the fix and flip houses, right? Really interested and kind of see the process from when he would acquire them to when we would come in and list them. And so I was always interested, but I think my mindset wasn't in the right place at that time. At that time, me and my wife were still renting, and so I was like, I can't even afford to buy my own house. How am I going to buy an investment property, find the cash to flip it, and then where is he finding these houses, right? Like I'm never seeing these ugly homes on market. Didn't know about wholesaling or anything like that, and so kind of put that on the back burner. Um, Fast forward, I exited that photography business. It kind of just took the joy out of it, um, which was a huge passion of mine, and so it just became very clinical and kind of on autopilot. And so a previous job that I had was in the pharmaceutical space, doing like specialized HVAC work, and so I transitioned over to a company that I had worked for previously, and was just on site, which was great. We had one kid at the time, and it was more like stable work-life balance, just from 7 to 3. When I'm off, I'm off. I don't have to think about anybody. Where the photography stuff was like never ending. And
Mhm.
so did that for a few years, and then we had our second child, our daughter Gwen, and I'm having this like existential crisis on my couch at like 2 in the morning. I'm like, how am I going to provide the life that my family deserves? Like, I have a decent job, we have decent benefits, but I've got two, maybe three ladder rungs to climb in this company, and then I'm capped out. And I get 2 weeks of PTO. My coworkers have worked 20, 30 years at the same place, and they're basically just staring at their 401ks waiting to retire. And so I wanted so much more for myself. And so I started going down the rabbit hole of all kinds of different side hustles, and eventually real estate popped back up, like investing. And I came across Jerry Norton talking about wholesaling. And when I first heard it, it was like, I think the tagline was like, I took this piece of paper and flipped it for $40,000. And I was like, there's no way that this is legitimate. Like this can't be real. And so, but it sparked my interest. I tried everything else and nothing was really getting traction. And so I dug headfirst into just learning and finding people locally to like corroborate that this is actually real. Like, can you actually show me? I called it a receipt. I didn't even know it was a HUD statement, right? And it was like, can you show me a receipt that you actually made money doing this? And he was one of my first mentors. His name is Ted. And he's like, yeah, I actually just wholesaled a lot here in Garner, which is a town right next to Raleigh. He's like, I made $25,000. Here's the receipt, newbie. And and so then that was like that was all the confirmation that I needed that this was like a legitimate business. And so I just went head first into consuming all the content and listening to all the audiobooks and podcasts and stuff, and um, quickly found Pace and the wholesale hotline community and really resonated with Pace. And so I actually met my first business partner, and we're still doing business today from the free group before I officially joined Subto and Gator. And so we were primarily focusing on wholesaling, and then got to cherry pick the best deals, moved into flipping, and then that's just kind of snowballed into us running 3 to 4 jobs at any given time, and then now buying the rentals in the sober space.
So, I mean, how did you go from learning what wholesale was to actually doing it? Did you join someone's team or did you just kind of just go out on
No.
it?
Yeah, I if there was anything that I regret, it's that, right? I just was spinning my wheels trying to do it on my own. And I don't know if it was so much an ego thing or more like a self-worth thing. Like I don't have any value to provide like another team that's established. Um, which was definitely not the case, right? Like you and I both now we have established businesses. Like the biggest thing that we lack is time. And
Mhm.
so being able to leverage somebody new for their time to teach them the ropes just elevates both of you, right? And you can compound that that success. But yeah, it took me about 8 months to close my first deal. Not without trying. Like I was banging the phones on my lunch break. I'm driving for dollars, doing the things, and we got probably 6 or 7 houses under contract, but they fell apart for various reasons. Either I underwrote the deal incorrectly, um, the buyer backed out last minute, sellers were lying about something, and the numbers just didn't make sense. And so, but we just kept persistent, right? And eventually got our first deal done. It was a piddly amount. It was maybe $3,500 that I'm
Mhm.
splitting with my partner. But it was proof of concept that it was actually real. And
Yeah.
so maybe 2 weeks later, we were doing some direct mail where we were just doing it in-house, right? Like licking and sticking the mailers, watching a hockey game or something with my wife,
Mhm.
and get a call. Still the easiest deal I've ever done. And that next deal we made $49,000 in about 2 weeks. And
Wow.
so persistence paid off, and then that kind of just amplified the results that we were getting, and then we slowly transitioned to flipping ourselves and kind of building out the team that we have right now.
So how do you make that transition to go from wholesaling to flipping?
It was really just a like a return on investment, right? It was back, this was probably end of 21, early 22, right? Rates were really low, prices were going crazy, especially in our market. And so we were nurturing this lead for about 6 months. Price when we originally were talking didn't make sense. He wanted too much money, but the appreciation just went through the roof over those 6 months. And so when I followed up with him, he was still good at that price. And so I'm looking at the numbers, knowing my buyers in the area. I'm like, go to my partner. His name's Scott. I said, Scott, this we've got a great problem to have, but this is where we're at. We can make probably 30 to 40,000 if we wholesale this thing, or we can make about 100,000 if we flip it. He had a HELOC already out on his house looking for a rental property from our deal flow. But he and I was like, it's your money. What do you want to do? And he's like, let's go for it. Let's flip it. And so luckily, we had a relationship with a GC. My partner Scott is a CPA, and so he actually ran the books for this contractor, who only worked with investors, and so we already had a good working relationship with him. And so he came in and ran the job. We still obviously made some mistakes that we just didn't know what to look out for. Had a tenant issue, had some other scope of work things that were missed, but we got it sold. We made money, not 100,000, but we still made a good profit, especially for being our first one. And that was again like another proof of concept. They're like, okay, we can do this too. Let's go and try to figure out how we can optimize this and do better on the next one.
So then I guess while you're wholesaling, you start getting into flipping. Then how do you, at this point, do you have like a team for the wholesaling piece already?
Not necessarily. We were still doing some outbound marketing. We had some VAs for a while that were generating some leads, and I was more the closer, going out and walking the properties, and then acquisition and disposition was mainly on my shoulders just because Scott was busy being a CPA, right? And so
Yeah.
just drowning in tax returns. And so that we kept that for a while with the VAs for probably a little over a year, but the um, the return on investment wasn't really there as for like for my set rate that I'm paying them hourly for the quality of the leads that were coming in just wasn't great. And so we pivoted and actually changed to more of like an appointment setter model, which Pace is now calling like the Orbit program,
Mhm.
where you can kind of teach people along the way. They'll leverage your time. What I wish I did when I got started, I kind of structured it that way. And so
Yeah.
we're able to build relationships with new folks in Subto or Gator that wanted to wholesale, but they either didn't have the time to pull list or the skill set to do that, the software um, to skip trace and all that kind of stuff, but they were available to get on the phone, right? Which at this point, I just didn't have the bandwidth. And so I would send them all the data. They would make the calls. Once somebody raised their hand, I would still come in and close, and we would just pay them a commission on the back end. And so our our return on investment there was way better, and the quality of leads were way better than the VAs were. And so we've kept that model for the last about 2 years, and it's been great. Been able to help people close their first deal and then keep our overhead very low because I'm only paying for deals that we close rather than a straight hourly rate to a VA.
Right. So I got a question about people that raise their hand because I tried wholesaling too, and
Hmm.
I did it where I was just throwing money at VAs and having them generate leads, and then throwing it to another VA who was an acquisitions manager, which I had no business trying to train because I was just terrible on the phones.
Yeah.
Um, so then when someone raises their hand, what a lot of my VAs would constitute as a lead would be someone who didn't necessarily say yes, but at the same time, like they would just talk, like they would
Right.
open to talking. So is that someone that you would set an appointment with, or someone that just says, "Yeah, I do want to sell, I just don't know."
Right. Or make me an offer. No,
Yeah.
we would want to vet them and pre-qualify them to the point where we can actually have a real conversation. That at that point when we were wholesaling more heavy than flipping, we were focusing on like the government list, the water shut-offs, the tired landlords and stuff like that. And so the conversations you could drag on or just not be very fruitful. Now when we do wholesale, we focus on the pre-foreclosure space. So these
Mhm.
people have known pain, they're on a timeline, they need to make a decision, and so we can come in, provide all the options for them, and if there is a way to keep them in their house, we'll do that just because that's the right thing to do. But nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, they're going to pre-qualify themselves against any of that, right?
Mhm.
And the only logical conclusion is either a cash sale or a creative deal. And so those conversations are much more fruitful than just any like mailing every house on the block and seeing if you can get something to go, right? And so that's what we kind of honed in on that niche.
Yeah. So then for the pre-foreclosure, I remember watching a video, I think it was Brett Daniels and Pace Morby. They were going through, these are the 9 things that you can offer. And
Hmm.
typically the ninth one is when you actually go and buy the property. Is that
Yeah.
the route that you go?
So I follow more of Michael Frankie's framework. He's another Subto student. He's got a great community, and he only focuses on pre-foreclosures. And there's just 5 options. And so there's reinstatement of the loan, which if they could have done that, they would have already,
Mhm.
right? Loan modification, which is a possibility, but oftentimes it doesn't work out. Um, Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which is not ideal, but it can at least kick the can down the road to try to figure out if there's a better solution. And then the other two are either cash sale or subject to. And so we kind of walk down that framework and let them disqualify themselves, just letting them know these are options available to them. And then we can get into the nitty gritty of actually numbers, how is this going to work? And 9 times out of 10, especially now as we focus on flipping, the creative deal makes the most sense. And that's really how I'm focusing on flipping houses is just creative acquisition. So more of a subtail model.
Mhm.
Um, and so pre-foreclosures work great for that. We also do a lot in the assisted living space. So people transitioning into senior care. A lot of those people have a lot of equity and some deferred maintenance, and we know where they're going. So if they can wait a little bit for me to renovate the home and sell it, they're going to make more money in the long run.
Okay. So you're helping I mean, they're having to wait a little bit, but they're getting a piece of the finished product.
Correct. Yeah, and it's similar to an ovation model. It's just I have full control.
Mhm.
Uh, because I've heard too many horror stories of people getting to the closing table and the sellers seeing how much I'm making and thinking that that's not okay and killing the deal, or turning out to love the house and they just want to refinance and I can't make the profit that I was looking for, right?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we negotiate their equity position on the front end. So whether I make $1 or I make $1 million, they're still getting their money and they're not looking in my pocket, right? And so I feel like that security is worth the extra couple $1,000s in closing costs.
Yeah. Um, Another myth I had with wholesaling is like you hear all these stories, oh, I just talked to this one person and then got a deal done the next day. On average, what is the number of touches in terms of like having to talk to them face to face, text messages, phone calls? What are the number of touches on average to get a deal done?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on the motivation level, right? So, like in the pre-foreclosure specifically, I think we're at between 7 and 9 touches
Right.
before we actually get to a contract. And that can vary. Obviously, there will be some people that are much more motivated, and we've got some door knockers out there where we could be contracted after that conversation, where others are 20, 30 times. before they actually come to fruition. And I'm actually sitting outside of a flip that we acquired creatively. It was a foreclosure situation. I think we reached out to that guy 16 times, and he called us the day before the auction, and we were able to come in, structure it, pause the auction, catch up the arrears. I actually let them stay here for the last 3 months, I believe. They just
Mhm.
moved out, and then we've got a very quick lipstick job, and we're going to be listed next week. And
No.
so, yeah, it was a great deal all around. And yeah, so that's typically the avatar of those types of sellers. They kind of keep their head in the sand until the last minute, and so we
Yeah.
just want to nurture those relationships until so we can be there when they're ready to say yes.
Yeah. Another thing that you brought up was your partner Scott. You were doing acquisitions and dispo because he was busy with tax season. So then, in that case, like, what value is he bringing at that time? And as a partner, like, how are you? Because that you're pretty much doing everything, right? So then, what, how do you handle that? I guess.
Sure. Yeah, well, from the onset when we got together back in the free group, like I mentioned, um, he's a CPA, right? So he makes some good money, and he had more money than time, right? He was trying to buy his time back, see his kids more. And I kind of approached him and said, "Hey, I don't have much of either right now, but I have more time than you. If you fund our marketing efforts, pay for the VAs, pay for the mailers, whatever, I'll do all of the sweat work, sweat equity, and then we'll just split the deals." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I love that." And so I brought the value of actually like doing the work, and he was funding those deals. And then he had the money to get into the flip, right? So I didn't bring any money to the table. He leveraged his HELOC to get in there. And so
Mhm.
he's been more the financial partner, at least on the front end, before we started building our PML network.
Mhm.
And nowadays, obviously, he does all the taxes and back end stuff, which is great, and he has the knowledge of that. And then we both kind of tag team as far as design work and project management for our flips. Um, and so there's some ebbs and flows, right? He can focus on a different lead generation. Like he builds a lot of relationships with agents within his network, where I go more direct to seller on the foreclosure space. And so we can kind of divide and conquer that way.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Then how long did you two know each other before you actually started partnering and he started giving you funding your marketing?
Yeah, so we had about a probably a 45-minute conversation on the phone. It was during Pace was doing like a driving for dollars challenge just a few years ago when he was really pushing batch leads.
Mhm.
And we had a conversation, then we met for coffee about a week later. And then after that conversation, we were like, all right, let's start doing deals. And so ran that for a couple months, did our first wholesale deal, and then made that big rip. And it was probably 3 or 4 deals later is when we actually did that first flip and where he funded it. But we were pretty open and honest. We have very similar just family dynamics. We're both really into hockey and had similar other interests, and so we it was very complementary to each other, our skill
Yeah.
sets. And so yeah, we just ran for it, and it's been great. We're about 3 years in now, and yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so I mean, I've heard a lot of stories that have gone the other way where someone funded someone's marketing and just nothing came about. So I'm glad to see that something like this actually worked out.
It is possible. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now you are wholesaling on top of flipping. How many flips are you doing a month or a year?
Yeah. So I think last year, I think we did 6 or 7.
Mm.
We just sold our largest, like our big first luxury property, sold it for 1.2 million
Nice.
about 10 days ago. That was a bear of a project. It was supposed to be 6 months and it took 14. And so there was a lot of opportunity cost lost on that one, just because the
Mhm.
money was tied up for so long to go out and buy other opportunities.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're typically probably between 7 to 10, and we're looking to continue to scale that. And obviously, these creative acquisitions that we're doing lets us be a little bit more liquid, so we can take down more properties at the same time and
Mhm.
still get that profit margin that we're looking for.
Got it. And what's the biggest problem with scaling from where you're at now to where you want to go?
As far as I think it's just deal flow because of the unique way that I'm buying, right? Like having people that are in a position where they can wait before they get all of their money, right? I can give them a down payment. I'm obviously going to cover the debt service on the house.
Yeah.
But if it's a typical homeowner that's looking to sell, they need to buy right away and they
Mhm.
can't wait. And so these kind of subsets of people that we're focusing on in the pre-foreclosure space and the seniors that are transitioning, we know that they have some time, and if we can maximize their profit if they're willing to wait a little bit, it's a
Mm.
win-win for both parties. And so it's just increasing our lead flow for those types of opportunities to pencil.
Right. But the thing is, you're focusing on one type of lead, which then I think it makes it easier to be successful because a lot of people, especially myself, when I was going out and I was trying to wholesale, it was all different types of senior, retirees, like pre-retirees, right? Or retired landlords. Sticking to one thing, has that really helped you get find some success?
Yeah, I think so because we were kind of flailing doing the same thing when we first got started, and it
Mhm.
was more like a mile wide, an inch deep for the
Mhm.
quality, right? And so now
Yeah.
we've reversed that, and now we're an inch wide, a mile deep. We're going really, really deep into that data set, and if anything, we can expand markets using that same type of data. Um, and so we have lots of opportunities for that, and then it's just introducing and educating this type of model to the sellers because obviously a lot of them have never heard of it before, and
Yeah.
showing the benefits of if you can wait, you're going to make significantly more money than any other cash offer is going to be able to give you,
Yeah.
and so making that true win-win. But yeah, it's a volume game like anything in real estate. It's just getting in front of enough people and presenting that offer to them to get them to agree.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So what kind of mindset issues did you have to, what was your biggest mindset issue you had to get over?
Oh man, I think it was just imposter syndrome, right? Like, who am I to think that I can go and flip these houses or get a seller to agree to buy a house from me when I had never bought one before, right?
Mhm.
Other than my personal home, and just learning all the vernacular and the inner workings of this. That I think that was the biggest struggle. Um, but then coming to the realization that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, right? And if we're really focusing on the people we're serving rather than the profits that we're looking for, you're going to have much more success. And
Mhm.
so focusing on these people that have pain in a specific way and just really building those relationships and trying to solve the problems, um, we've had the most success that way. And just opening up our mind to we can be that solution for folks, regardless of how much you know. It comes down to people over profits, and that was a big unlock for me.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot where if you just focus on the value, then the dollars will come
Right.
versus focusing on the dollars.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's like one of my favorite books is The Go-Giver, and they
Mhm.
say like the amount of value that you bring to the marketplace will directly correlate to how much money you make.
Mhm.
And so the bigger problems we solve, the more money we get to take home to our families. And so
Yeah.
um, I think that makes it this business exciting where yeah, where it's all houses, it's all sticks and bricks, but the people that are involved in the deals are unique every single time. And so that part of being creative and kind of trying to solve the puzzle, pull the levers to make a win-win solution is what I really love about this business. So every day is a little bit different.
Yeah. And you get to be outside and do an interview.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. One last thing before we close out. Uh, what's I guess knowing what you know now, what's one piece of advice you would give to yourself when you're just getting started?
Yeah, 100% would be attach yourself to people that are already doing what you want to do
Mhm.
and just being willing to give your time for their experience, right? If I was able to come to a John or another high level operator in my market and say like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. How can I provide value to you?" That would have shortened my timeline probably 10x, right? To actually get the deal done. Having somebody look over my shoulder to tell me this is a deal, this is not a deal. You need to focus on this. Don't worry so much about that. Rather than just spinning my wheels trying to figure it out on my own, that would
Yeah.
that would have propelled our success tenfold, right? And so, finding a mentor and really listening to what they say
Mhm.
and leveraging their bumps and bruises, right? They're giving you the blueprint so you don't fall in those same potholes in the road.
Yeah.
Listening to them and then just taking action, right? Like you can learn and learn and learn. There's endless amounts of strategies and things to grasp in this space, but until you pick up that phone and actually talk to a seller, it's just entertainment, right? And so if you actually want to go and change your life and the families that you interact with, you have to go and
Yeah,
take
I love
action.
that. Like attaching yourself to someone who's doing exactly what is it you want to do is the biggest cheat code, especially if you're bringing them value and you're not just like, can I pick your brain? It's like
Right.
it's free coaching and you get to earn too.
Exactly. Learn while you earn, and yeah, and just pick up all the wisdom that they've accumulated over their career, right? And
Yeah.
so you can avoid a lot of the headaches that come in this business and things that you're blindsided to because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Adam, it was great hearing your story and appreciate you answering all the questions. How can people reach out to you and work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Love what you're doing with your channel. Um, you can reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is at the Adam Colburn. I also have a YouTube channel as well, same handle. And my podcast is called the Properties and Pour Overs Podcast, kind of blending business and entrepreneurship with my coffee shop and our real estate. And so you can check us out there. But yeah, shoot me a DM. Let me know that John sent you, and I'll be sure to take care of you, see how we can work together.
Yeah, and I will make sure to put that all in the description to make it easier for everyone. Adam, thank you again so much.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate it.